Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 3, Episode 21, The Other Side of This Life. And this is a double episode. So the episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So the vast majority of both of these back-to-back episodes is an introduction to the spin-off series Private Practice, which stars Addison once she leaves Grey's Anatomy and Seattle Grace and goes to Hollywood instead, or Los Angeles, that area. The Hollywood sign is in the background, so she's in that vicinity. And she goes to visit friends wanting to have a baby now that things haven't worked out with any of the men in her life, and finds out that she actually can't have a baby, but she is reminded by her two friends, one of whom owns the practice, that, there's an empty office there and it's available to her. And of course, because it is an introduction to the spin-off series, we see a couple of patient stories. A man who ends up having a tumor, which is why he has a low sex drive, and his frustrated wife. And then big drama with a woman who's supposed to be a surrogate, who then slept around with a bunch of men, who then it's revealed the baby wasn't even the one that was implanted because that embryo didn't take, and she actually ended up getting pregnant with her own embryo. But in the end, she does give up the baby to the woman who she was going to be a surrogate for, and she does so under the condition that they'll all be a part of each other's lives going forward, are basically what happens there. And then Addison, finding herself and getting to know the other people in the practice, introducing us to the characters. As for what happens at Seattle Grace while Addison is away, we have Susan Grey coming in with the hiccups and then coming back in with an infection before the antibiotics cause some complications, and she ends up dying from going septic, and they try to get her to surgery, but she doesn't manage to make it and does pass away. Rebecca also goes through a surgery hoping to get her memory back. It's revealed she is able to speak 3 languages in addition to English, so 4 total. But it is also, she was hoping the surgery would give her her memory back, and when she wakes up, she says she has no memory. And then we have Christina's mother and Burke's mother coming in to basically plan the wedding for them against Christina's wishes for a small wedding, which Burke initially agreed to. He then reveals he thought she was joking because he wants the big wedding, and he allows the mothers to come in and basically make the wedding a big wedding, which kind of throws Christina off at first, but she does start moving with that and is a good sport about it all, asks Callie, Meredith, and Izzy to be her bridesmaids. And then George and Izzy at the end of the episode also end up kissing in the elevator. And things between Meredith and Derek, they're still talking, but he's sleeping at the trailer now. And at the end of the episode, he does come over to see her, but sees her drinking with Izzy and Alex and ends up walking away. Essentially, that's what this episode boiled down to. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, it is time to rank the episode. As always, we'll rank first on the mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So to start off with, I'm going to be honest, I made this mostly objective ranking list and ranked values based solely on what happened in the Grey's Anatomy section of the episode, not the private practice part of the episode. Simply because I consider those parts, again, to be the introduction to a new series. It is a spinoff, and it didn't really have anything to do with any of the Grey's Anatomy cast whatsoever. I did vaguely add a couple of things, but the primary points are for the actual Grey's Anatomy stuff, and the points I did give to the private practice side canceled out, so don't really count so much. The only one I did allow to have points that actually counted towards the episode was Addison, because right now she is still a part of Grey's Anatomy, and at the end of this episode she is heading back to the Grey's Anatomy Seattle Grace Hospital, though we do know, spoilers, that she is going to be leaving again. So, having said that, first we have our single episode supporting character introductions, and all of these characters were on the private practice side, so I'm going to name them, but they're only going to be bulked together 1 point, which again will be cancelled out. So we have Dr. Cooper Friedman, Dr. Violet Turner, Dr. Pete Wilder, William Del Parker, Alan, Kathy, Paul, Carol, Jim, Lisa, Rick, Doug, Cammie Davis, and Maya Bennett, all worth 1 point, and then they minus 1 point for the recap slash setup episode, and I'm considering it setup episode because it's setting up for the spinoff Private Practice. That's where it cancels out. Now, the multi-episode supporting character introductions, technically they are Private Practice characters. However, because they do recur separate from Private Practice in another Grey's Anatomy episode, I believe in season 5, I was willing to give them their own individual points because they are going to, again, recur on the actual show that I'm watching, and that is Dr. Sam Bennett and Dr. Naomi Bennett, who are the friends that Addison went to see and are recently divorced. Then we have our multi-season supporting character development, which of course was the fact that Susan Grey passes away in this episode. That's worth 3 points. We also have our multi-season main character development, and this again has to do with Addison, as she initially goes to the private practice of her friends because Naomi is a fertility specialist and she wants to have a baby through being inseminated by a donor. However, then she does find out that she is infertile and that's not going to happen, and that is when she starts to consider the empty office at their practice, which we know, spoilers again, because of the spin-off series, she does end up taking in the future. And then we have our main relationship development, which isn't necessarily to do with Burke and Christina specifically, but to do with their wedding overall, which a wedding is a big part of a relationship, so I'm still counting things that go along with the wedding as part of their relationship development, and that is that both of their mothers arrive to help with planning the wedding, and that this wedding then is now no longer in Christina's hands. And that brings us now to the negatives, which I have a main relationship regression or breakup, which is the fact that Burke has, despite seeming to understand at the time she said it, Burke has completely ignored Christina's wishes about the wedding, wanting it to be small, maybe even just going to City Hall, wanting it to be very intimate, not wanting to go through dress, bridesmaids, etc. He even says that he thought she was joking, even though I thought, at least when I was watching the scene, that she was pretty clear that this is what she wanted, that, she's not really into the wedding thing, and she's made that very clear, in my opinion, watching, but that she was going to go through with this for him, but that she wanted it to be small, and he seemed to agree at the time, but now all of a sudden he thinks she's joking and has brought in their mothers, and it's now this big to-do with a chapel that sits like 200 people and all the rest, and I feel like that's a very bad sign as far as their communication as a couple, and their consideration for each other, so I'm taking 4 points for that. Even separate from that, though, George and Burke both kind of have some doubts about their respective marriages, and Burke's mother kind of interferes and talks to him about how, you know, she's outwardly saying supportive things, but he brings up the fact that even when he was younger, she would use that technique to get him to reflect on mistakes and learn from them, and so he sees her being negative to it, and that's putting doubts in his mind as to whether Christina is the one, whether he'll be happy with Christina, etc., etc. And these doubts that he has kind of also filter through the episode, so I did take 4 points for that as well. We also have our supporting relationship regression or breakup, which is George's doubts, which culminate in him kissing Izzy in the elevator, which is once again him being unfaithful to Callie. So also minus 2 points for that. And then the last and most egregious losing of points is the negative messaging or behavior, and that is when Meredith, as the one who supposedly is closest to Thatcher, goes to report to him Susan's death. He ends up being physically violent with her, which was shocking and disgusting. And honestly, sometimes I do wish that I had put negative messaging or behavior as worth more than minus 2 points. However, because there's a whole range of negative behaviors that can occur from like the relatively mild to the really, really serious, 2 was like basically the compromise. So unfortunately, I can only take 2 points for it on the mostly objective ranking. But I do think that it was absolutely disgusting and shocking. And with all of those points being considered, it does leave us with a 5 out of 10 episode. Brings our mostly objective ranking for season 3 so far to in first are the boys are Don't Stand So Close to Me, Great Expectations, Wishin' and Hopin', Walk on Water, Drowning on Dry Land, Some Kind of Miracle, Let the Angels Commit, My Favorite Mistake, I Am a Tree, Desire, Time Has Come Today, Oh, the Guilt, and then this episode is in 14th, The Other Side of This Life, followed by Staring at the Sun, From a Whisper to a Scream, 6 Days, What I Am, Sometimes a Fantasy, Scars and Souvenirs, and then Time After Time in last place. Now, my personal feelings about this episode. Again, the physical violence at the end between Thatcher and Meredith was very shocking, especially when they spent so much time trying to tell us that he was a pushover and that he was bullied by Meredith's mom into leaving and such a mild-mannered person. And then his first reaction to bad news is to hit somebody. Ew. And terrible and, in my opinion, unforgivable, but we'll see where that goes in the future. Um, did not like that. Did not like Burke not listening to Christina when she made very clear that, she was making a sacrifice for being willing to marry him as she did never wanted to be married. She wasn't the marrying kind, but she did so because she loves him and that she wanted a small wedding, so that he could make a little bit of a sacrifice for her too. And then he thought she was joking and is now completely going against what she wanted for the wedding. Not cool. In my opinion, George once again being unfaithful, never been a fan of him, and I feel validated in calling it like I saw it at the start. Not a great character. Obviously, still not a great character. Susan dying. Susan was what was bringing Meredith out of her shell as far as reconnecting with Thatcher as family. And now she's gone. Obviously, that did not end well. But she was a very likable character, so her death was unfortunate, especially with the implications of, how that affects the relationships between Meredith and that part of the family going forward. So most of the stuff that happened in the actual part of the episode that was revolving around Grey's Anatomy was not exactly likable. Rebecca was, as always, somewhat forgettable, unfortunately. Um, Yeah, so I couldn't give it much on that side of it. I did actually enjoy the private practice side, which did again take up most of these 2 episodes with Addison and meeting her friends, and they of course had to spend that time because they were introducing a whole new cast of characters for the spinoff. However, again, what positives that did have were kind of mitigated by the fact that I have never seen private practice. Back when I first got into Grey's Anatomy, I probably would have watched it, except it wasn't legally streaming anywhere that I could find it. So I just kind of was like, nah, I guess I'll never see it. Now I probably could find it on one of the many streaming services that I subscribe to, but I'm not right now watching anything new. So even if I was to go and watch it, which I think like it looks like it might be interesting, it probably wouldn't be for a while, is what I mean for that. And then of course you have again the whole, it's a different show, a different cast of characters. We're not going to see any of these characters again. In order for these characters to matter, we would have to watch an entirely different show, which again, I'm not doing right now. And I understand why they did this. There are many series that introduce a spin-off or a pilot for a spin-off within the origin series that I don't have a problem with, really. But again, it's just the fact that, like, you know, even if I was compelled by these characters, it would still be a different show I was watching. So, as far as the context of within this show, there was no point in getting attached within this show because of the people that were in there, the only ones that will at one point reoccur are Addison and then the two Bennets, Naomi and ooh, why did I forget his name? Sam. It was Sam. Anyways, so basically, I don't have a problem with the concept. I did find that the story was interesting on that side of things, but I can't really give it high points because of the fact it's a different show. Didn't watch it, wasn't really related to Grey's Anatomy as it is, and this is a rewatch and rank of specifically Grey's Anatomy side of things. So I did decide to give it a 3 out of 10 for the entertainment value of the dramas, but again, I was dissatisfied with everything that happened on the Grey's Anatomy side. And then while the private practice was entertaining, again, it's a different show, so there wasn't really much point in engaging with that beyond just it's entertaining and maybe has prompted me to at some point in the future actually watch private practice, which I haven't done yet, but that's not right now, so we'll leave that aside. And anyways, that then brings the personal rankings to In First, Some Kind of Miracle, Walk on Water, Drowning on Dry Land, Wishin' and Hopin', Great Expectations, Don't Stand So Close to Me, 6 Days, Where the Boys Are, From a Whisper to a Scream, Staring at the Sun, Let the Angels Commit, I Am a Tree, What I Am, Scars and Souvenirs, Desire, Sometimes a Fantasy, My Favorite Mistake, Time Has Come Today, Oh, the Guilt, Time After Time, and then this episode is currently in the last spot, The Other Side of This Life. Bringing us to the series ranking so far, and we have our mostly objective ranking, Season 1 in first, followed by Season 2. Season 3 so far has a score of 133 out of a possible 230. On the personal ranking side, we have Season 2 followed by Season 1, with Season 3 currently at a score of 158 out of a possible 230. With that, we have now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 3, Episode 21, The Other Side of This Life. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.